what do you recommend for someone right now that is because I am getting a lot of sellers that are, you know what, I want to go ahead and I want to legalize my family. That's a one family to a two family. What do they need to do to actually do a conversion from a one to a two family?
Typically, we file an application that's called an alteration type 1. And what that does is amend the C of O.
So what you do is you fill an application, alteration type 1.
Yes.
You're saying to amend the CO.
Yeah, and an alteration type 1 allows you to amend the occupancy, the use, and the egress.
Okay. So they're able to change the occupancy, and what's the other?
The use and the egress.
What is the egress? What does that stand for?
The way you come in and out of the unit.
Got it. Okay. And how expensive is it? I know that it varies obviously, but let's say if it's a one family to two, and let's say they don't even have a CO, because the reality is a lot of homes don't have CO because they were built in a specific time here in New York. So what happens then?
Well, as far as let's say Department of Building fees, it's calculated on the estimated dollar amount of construction. So, we'll prepare the application, we'll give in the square footage, whatever the work is going to be done, and they spit out a fee which has to be paid. As far as expediting, again, depends on the amount of work. When the property was built, you have to worry about asbestos, whether we have to draw new plans, whether there's design involved, or we're just copying the layout. There's a lot involved to determine the price.
It sounds like there is a lot. So you need to even do asbestos, kind of show them that there is no issues with this house.
Exactly.
So what would you recommend for someone? And I know it varies, right? So I have a homeowner that they're thinking, you know what, I have a one family, but I want to buy a two family, and it's going to cost me about $100,000. What if I just legalize my one family, make it into a two family, and spend that $100,000 and just legalize and do the conversion? So what do you think will be the best for them to do if we're looking at about $100,000 in terms of difference?
Well, I mean, the first thing is you can't assume you're allowed to do it, right? So, you would retain someone like myself. We'll go over and we'll see if it's allowed to do. Once you're allowed to do it, then we can kind of gauge of how much the process is going to cost. But you can give prices out blindly without actually going to see and determining what needs to be done.
Got it. So the best thing to do is kind of, like you said, just kind of sit down, see what can even be done there, because even though the zoning is for a two family, maybe you don't have the enough space for it, right? So that it all varies, like you were saying.
Exactly, because you got to calculate the floor area, the floor ratio area, and determine what the lot can support. Because sometimes you can go up a story, but if your house is exceeding the width, then you don't have the floor area ratio to cover the height.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So it's not like, hey, my next door neighbor, his house and the house here in this block, it's a two family everywhere on here. I can just convert mine into a two family. It doesn't work that way, right?
Correct. I get that all the time. Or with decks. Oh, but everyone has a deck on this block. Like, doesn't mean it's legal, or doesn't mean your lot can support the deck.
So that's why it's very important to hire someone like you, so that you can kind of go over and really give them the whole dish of it. Just like you did for me. I have a house in Brooklyn that you went over, you checked it out, and he had everything saying, hey, it's a three family, but in reality, in the Department of Building, still showing like it's a two. But you were able to go there and do the measurements and determine that, we can actually legalize it into a three family.
Correct.
That's why it's very important to actually connect with you. So while I'm here connecting with you, what's your phone number? How can people get a hold of you, whether it's on your office or your cell phone?
Well, my cell phone number is 718-938-9522. My email is my first name, Stefano, Stefano, @nycdgroup.com.
Awesome. Thank you. And I will definitely make sure I put that in the comments. I do have a question here from Christina. Thank you, Christina, for watching. She says, what kind of permits will you need to raise the height of an attic aside from zoning, especially if it's in Long Island?
No, well, permits are just a standard permit. You apply for the permit. Obviously you have to meet certain requirements. In Long Island, it's tricky because every town is different and they all have their own set of regulations. But we would have to find out what criteria the town needs you to meet, and we go in and find out if it can be done. You can't just assume that you can do it.
Okay, so even if you have neighbors and friends nearby that have this attic, again, you can't even look at your next door neighbor to compare it to your home at this point. It's all case by case. That's what I'm hearing. Is that right?
Exactly. You can gauge. Everyone has it. There's a good possibility you can have it, but it doesn't mean that you can't. You still have to go and do the zoning analysis.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you so much for that information. Now, with regards to, because I want people to understand, when it comes to actually legalizing a 1 to a 2 family and actually making it into a 2 family, can they just say, okay, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and hire you to legalize it, but I'm going to have my friend and my cousin and I am going to go ahead and make the kitchen. We're going to make the bathroom. Can they do that? I want them to hear from you.
No, you need a licensed contractor who's registered with the Department of Buildings to pull the permit. Same thing with the plumbing. You need a master plumber. Same thing with electricians. And the important thing, which a lot of homeowners do, is we follow the job, get it permitted, they start doing the work, and then mid-construction, like, oh no, I want the kitchen a little bigger, or I want this bedroom over here, and they build not according to plan. And in most cases, homeowners pay all the expediting fees or architecture fees up front. And when changes like this happen, it incurs more fees, and they don't understand that. And that's kind of where the job dies. They're like, oh, I don't want to pay you more to amend the drawings to reflect to what I built. And the job dies, and then it comes where they're trying to sell the house, and you have an open permit. So now you got to hire a new architect, new everything to do it all over. And not only that, what they built doesn't mean they're allowed to have it. They might have built it not to code. So you might have to knock it down. So it's very important to build it according to plan, or if you have any revisions, make sure you get that approved as well.
Right. So now when you're saying according to plan, so can you walk me a little bit into this? How does this look like? Let's say that I go ahead and call you and I hire you to convert my house from a 1 family to a 2 family. What exactly do you need to do? Because I'm just thinking, oh, okay, I'll give you money, you go to the Department of Building, and I'm done. So what exactly would you have to do to get this approved plans, basically?
Okay, the first step is going with the architect and the design, right? The homeowner has a vision on how they want the second family to be designed. We'll do the layout, where they want the bathroom, kitchens. You got to figure out the logistics. Is it feasible? There's certain bedrooms require certain requirements. Some bathrooms have to be handicap accessible. All things you have to consider with new construction. So once we have the design and draw the plan and the homeowner is satisfied the way it looks, we'll go in and get it approved to the Department of Building. Now they might have objections and say, we want you to create X room wider. You're not allowed to have it, or it has to be fire rated. So we'll amend the drawings, go back to the client, make sure they accept it. Once it's approved and we pull the permit, we give those plans to the contractor, and the contractor's job is to build exactly what's approved on those plans.
So this sounds to me like it could be a very lengthy process, because it sounds to me that's a lot of back and forth that happens between you and the Department of Building, and also the architect and the homeowner.
And the contractor. There's a lot of moving parts, especially when you're trying to coordinate signatures. Some parties, they don't do it in a timely fashion, or they do it incorrectly, and then we got to go back. And, every day that goes by can turn into weeks at the Department of Buildings.
Absolutely. So what would you advise someone that is thinking about actually doing a conversion from a 1 to a 2 family, what they should do before they go ahead and say, you know what, let me call you? What should they figure out before they actually get you to come in with the architect to really figure this out?
No, I believe the first step is to get someone like myself to go in and see if they're allowed to do it. There's no use in wasting time and energy or resources to find out you can't do it.
Right. And
that'll be the first step.
And how do you determine that? How would you determine whether they actually will be able to legalize this? Is again you going in and figuring out the square footage?
The square footage, right? First, obviously, the zone that the property is located. Then you look at the footprint of the house compared to the lot. Sometimes you're required to have front yards, rear yards, side yards, depending on the zoning. You have to maintain that distance. So that can impact on the size you want, right? So you think you want a large second floor to do this apartment, but in reality, you're not allowed. That's why you see some houses where the second story is not the same dimensions as the first story.